Hi. Hi there. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. There's 7 people on.
7. Copy.
So we are going to give it just a little while for more people to jump on. Hi, Mad Latulippe. Welcome. Welcome to everyone. We're excited that you're here. Hi, Kumar. Okay. It looks like we have a fair amount of people on. We are starting with just introductions. So if more people come on, we'll get to really the meat of what we're talking about today. So my name is Cristi Walker, and I am here today with California Highway Patrolman Mark Latulippe.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us.
So we are I'll give you a short introduction about myself, and then I am going to go into why am I here? What makes Officer Latulippe and I so special that we were able to take over the What Is Sup Instagram account today. So a little bit about me. I have been given a lot of obstacles in my life, and every time that I come to an obstacle, I believe personally you have 2 options. 1, you can let it overcome you, or 2, you can overcome it. And I've chosen to overcome every obstacle that has come my way, including, it looks like it might have frozen for a second. There we go. Including the story that I'm going to tell you guys about today. So I live my life. My motto is choose happiness. I am very into living every day to the fullest, making sure that you enjoy it like it's your last, because we really do. Our stories are a great example of how you never know when it's your last day, but there is a lot you can do to prevent tragedies from happening, and that's really what we're here to talk about today. So I want you guys, there's 18 of you on here, which means you have super good odds. At the end, we are going to give away gift cards. So stick around. There's gonna be a question at the end, and once you guys all give your input, we're going to pick a winner from a couple of those. So we have some gift cards with an S. So look forward to that, and we hope you really enjoyed today's presentation. So again, my name's Cristi Walker, and really what we're talking about today is what's up with alcohol, right? What is it about alcohol? Why is it important that teens don't drink? And then why is it important that we don't drive impaired? First, let's address why it's important teens don't drink. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but the main ones that are most important to me are that when we're a teen, our brains just are not fully developed yet, right? So we have massive amounts of development going on in our teenage years. And it's really important that we allow our brains to fully develop before we introduce harmful substances. If you introduce harmful substances before your brain develops, you can actually have lasting consequences. So you could not learn some skills that you would have learned had you not drank until you were 21 or even over. Science says our brains don't stop finishing developing until we're 25. So just give your brain and your body as much odds as it possibly can to fully develop before you introduce those things. Another reason is that our brains can be wired for addiction. So if you start drinking earlier, you're more likely to be an alcoholic later in life. Statistically, if you start drinking before the age of 13, you are 40% more likely to be an alcoholic later in life. That is huge. And if you wait until you're 21, that drops below 10%. So recently, I'm going to tell you my story about how impaired driving affected me. But I wanted to start by talking about addiction and how your brain can be wired for addiction and how addiction alone has affected me as well. My dad started drinking in college. He was an alcoholic for most of my life. My dad had 3 DUIs, and I knew that he was an alcoholic, but it was always one of those things that we never really talked about. Most recently, my dad was 62, and I actually found out on Friday, so not even a week ago, that he passed away alone in his apartment due to alcoholism. So alcohol doesn't just affect you when you are behind the wheel of a car. It doesn't just affect you when you're around others, but it does affect everyone around you. So my dad's death last week, it didn't just affect him. It affected all of us. And throughout my life, the memories that I have and the experiences that I have were really shaped by the fact that he was an alcoholic. And sometimes I remember being in high school and calling him at night, and he would be at the bar, and I never knew if I was talking to my dad or talking to alcohol. And I just wish that he had realized when he started drinking, if he had known that his life was going to end this way, I guarantee you he would have never even started. And that's, I think, what I really want to drive home, is that if you knew the end, you would have never begun. And that's the same with the next story that I have to share with you. So my next story, I really stick to my notes because it's very emotional for me, and I just like to stay on track. So I'm going to start by saying all of my life I was surrounded by my family. So my entire family was no more than a 15-minute drive from my house at any given time. And since I grew up with 3 sisters, I often clung to my cousin Travis as the only brother figure in my life. This is Travis. And with technology, I had to print these photos out and hold them up for you so that you could see. So Travis was really the only brother figure in my life. I had 3 sisters, right? So he took fondly to that role. We were born 25 days apart, me on November 2nd and him on the 27th, which meant that we were in every school together until we graduated together in 2006. During childhood, we really spent a lot of time together. As a young boy, Travis showed a passion for helping and caring for animals. He was interested in anything from a worm to a giraffe, and he really wanted to save them all. When he was 12, he began breeding, raising, and selling bearded dragons. And he even started his own company called Sunfire Dragons, which he had incorporated. He was then inducted into the International Reptile Breeders Association at 12 years old. Travis loves sports, deep sea fishing, muscle cars, and high performance motorsports. He was a man of many passions. Travis and I were never closer than when we were in our early 20s. I'd come back from college, and during that time, Travis and I really connected. I was in an improv group in downtown San Diego, and he came to all of my performances to cheer me on. We drove around town in his cool cars with the windows down, and we sang our favorite country tunes. We got Mexican food and ice cream, and we would eat it on the beach together, and those are some of the best memories that I have of him. In 2011, Travis moved to New Orleans to pursue a career at the Audubon Zoo. There, he was working on enhancing the housing and habitats for animals to optimize lifespan and quality. He had never been happier than when he was in New Orleans doing what he loved, and although we missed him, we knew that it was right. It was where he was supposed to be. Little did we know that the place that brought him genuine happiness would also bring his untimely death. It was the night before Christmas Eve. Travis went out with some friends from work to celebrate Christmas before the days off. Around 1 a.m., Travis left his friends to go home for the night. On his way home, he ran out of gas less than 3 blocks from his house. He had a gas can in his trunk, which he gathered, and then started the short walk to the gas station. He was walking down what Louisiana refers to as a causeway, so it had a single lane road on either way with a large ditch between each way. Travis was walking on the side of the road when a car came his way. Before he had a chance to react, the car hit him at full speed. His body flew over the car and landed several feet away. The driver of the car did not stop. They fled the scene immediately and left him to die. Travis was left in the street for 30 minutes. At that time, the driver hid the car, had another drink at a bar down the street, and then walked back to the scene. The driver then called 911, acting as if she were the hero that found him. It took police and ambulance 15 minutes to arrive, and Travis did not make it to the hospital until 51 minutes after being hit. By this time, his fate was sealed, but it would take us 8 more days to find that out. This is a picture of him the night that he went into the hospital. It's pretty gruesome. When Travis was hit, I was in Oklahoma meeting my then fiance's family for the first time over Christmas. I was sleeping when I got the call. It was about 3 a.m. and I woke up to the vibration of my phone. I knew it was not good. It was my mom calling. I answered the phone and all she said was, "Travis was hit by a car." I mean, I'm slightly drowsy. I have no clue what's going on. She said Travis was hit by a car and that his dad and my grandma were on their way to New Orleans to be at his side. She told me that she'd have more information in the morning. At this time, we had no idea what happened. No one knew where it was, who did it, or why he was walking on the street. I tried to go back to sleep, but had little luck with the overwhelming knowledge that something was wrong. The next 8 days were filled with ups and downs. Travis had a subdermal hematoma, which is bleeding on the brain, requiring emergency surgery. They removed most of the bone on the right side of his head to get it to bleed and allow the brain to swell. He also had broken bones in his right leg, which would require a metal rod. They didn't want to move him at all, even for a CT scan, and they were concerned about his spine. He would need plastic surgery for lacerations on his face, and we were told that he had bruised lungs and bruised heart and road rash all over his body. Most concerning issue at this point, though, was his brain. When someone suffers a brain injury, there are several things they do to determine if there's any brain function. They check to see if your limbs react to touch or tense up, and they check your pupils. On Christmas Day, there was a slight response in his pupils where there was none before. This was amazing news for our family, and we really thought that things were going to turn around. Since I couldn't be in New Orleans, I recorded something for my grandma to play in his ear. It was the hardest recording I've ever made. I sobbed the entire time. And I hope that you never have to be in the position where you have to think of what the last thing that you would say to someone would be. But it turns out that the next day his reactions were even less. And then every day after that, it only got worse. On New Year's Eve, we were told the traumatic injuries to his brain were too severe and that he would never recover. My grandma, being a nurse, wanted to see proof and requested an MRI before we let him go. The MRI results showed that his brain was so swollen it was separating from the brainstem and there was no hope for recovery. We had the answer that it was time to let him go. They started the Versed IV, which ensured that he felt no pain or anxiety, and his respirations on life support were 31. When they got down to 10, they removed life support. And at 1:54 p.m. on New Year's Eve, Travis succumbed to his injuries and died at 27 years old. Throughout this entire ordeal, the person that hit him was still missing. We had no idea who it was, and we were painting the town with these reward posters. My uncle, Travis's dad, went around to every business to pass out the posters. He went into a bar down the street from where the crash occurred. He talked to the bartender and asked him to let us know if he had heard anything. The bartender told my uncle the person who found him on the street was actually at the bar at that time. She was a regular there. And he introduced them. My uncle thanked her profusely, hugging her and updating her on Travis's condition, never knowing that she was the person that hit him. Our efforts paid off when she tried to take her car to an auto body shop claiming it had been vandalized, and the owners found Travis's hair embedded in the windshield. They called the police, and as the police were there inspecting the car and taking the report, she showed up to get something out of her vehicle. She was arrested on the scene and charged with negligent homicide, obstruction of justice, hit and run, and injuring public records. Sentences that could total up to 30 years in prison. Her name is Jennifer, and she was 25 years old. This was her second DUI. Her family bailed her out, and she was placed on house arrest with an ankle bracelet until September of 2015. From January to September, my family worked closely with the district attorney's office for a plan of attack. She hired a lawyer, and we were ready to go to trial. Right before the trial was scheduled for jury selection, Jennifer's lawyer recommended that she take a plea deal. She admitted to being drunk at the time of the crash. It was smart for her to plead guilty and skip a trial. On the day of the sentencing, only a few of my family members were able to fly to New Orleans to represent Travis in the courtroom. They all read victim impact statements and told the judge what punishment they felt was necessary. And when the time came for Jennifer to speak, she said, "I'm so sorry I took him from y'all. I failed so many people, including myself. And I'm ready to give Travis the justice that he deserves." My family that attended felt that she was sincerely sorry and that she felt a great deal of remorse. And that day in the courtroom, they forgave her. My entire family hugged her. The judge sentenced Jennifer to 15 years in prison for vehicular homicide. She suspended 10 years and ordered Jennifer to serve 5 years in prison, including 3 without benefit of probation or parole. Now, because of overcrowding and Jennifer's sentence being considered a non-violent crime, she was released after serving only 11 months, less than a year in prison, for a lifetime without Travis. Not seeing her or feeling the remorse that she exhibited made taking the short sentence much more difficult for me. I was extremely angry. I was confused, and I felt that the system had failed Travis. In the minutes that Jennifer chose to drink and then drive, she changed my entire life. Nowadays, I hate driving. My commute to work is 28 miles, and I have anxiety the entire way. I used to walk on the sidewalk during my lunch hour to spend time outside and get some exercise, but I don't do that anymore. I avoid walking near the street at all costs. We will never know what Travis would have become. We will never know how the world could have been changed by his impact. He's gone forever, and we will never see him again. People say that time makes things easier, but that's really hard for me to believe, because the hardest thing for me, it's not the memories with Travis that I miss, but the future that I know I will never have because of a 100% preventable crime. All we have left is a cross and the place that he was hit. And we hope that this cross will impact others to make better choices. I miss Travis every day. When I have to drive, I talk to him often. I tell him about my wedding that he missed by 4 months. I tell him about my husband who he never met. And every day that I do things like this, I am reminded that his story and his life will not be in vain. And I have made it my goal and my purpose to spread his story, to convince others to never make that wrong choice again. So alcohol has really affected my life, right? Personally, I cannot drink alcohol because of health issues, but at this point, I'm not really sure I would ever choose to because of the destruction that it has really caused for not only me, but my entire family. And it's not just me. It's not just Officer Latulippe that you're going to hear from today. Impaired driving takes 10,000 lives a year. 10,000 lives. When even one is too much, because every single one of those 10,000 could have been prevented. So I really appreciate you guys listening to my story and the sweet comments that you are putting. I'm now going to pass it over to Officer Latulippe. We're going to get him set up on the live here, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself.
Hi guys, thank you, Cristi. I've witnessed Cristi's presentation many times, and it's powerful every single time. And like she was just saying, it's not the only story. I have a story. It sucks to have a story. I don't want to have a story. She started off with talking about why DUI is not allowed. And as a police officer, as CHP officer, and that's what I am. I'm the CHP officer from Oceanside, and I'm the public information officer. So I give presentations like this, or go into schools, or go into the military bases and talk about safe driving and DUI. So I started this job a month before I had this story, oddly enough. One of the things that I always talk about and I always hit on when I talk about DUI, and actually anything with safe driving, is the word choice. And Cristi was already using it at the end of her presentation. Choice. Everything we do behind the wheel of our vehicle is a choice. Everything. Speeding, running the red light, stopping at a stop sign, being distracted, all those things are a choice. What is the legal limit for California? For under 21, it's 0, right? 0 tolerance, right? For over 21, it's 0.08. Those are a choice to make sure we do not go out and drink when we are not supposed to, and we should also have a plan. And if and when you ever decide and you're of age and you're able to do that, go with a plan. Have a plan to get home. We have many options nowadays. So this is for people over 21 and under 21. So to get to my story, being a CHP officer, I go out and like I said, I do outreach. And my story, when I tell it, it's difficult to do so. And typically I do it with a PowerPoint, a presentation, and things like that. And just like Cristi, I get, she has to read some of her story. I do too, because it's emotion and it's something that I can't keep straight. The Highway Patrol is a large agency, and it recently created a video for my family. And you're going to see, we're going to kind of set it up here for you to watch and kind of take it in, and we'll kind of discuss some more things afterwards. But for now, we're going to do this video real fast.
Bear with us. It's going to take just a second. Okay, I think we're good.
All right. So this is about 13 minutes, 14 minutes long, and it's brand new from the Highway Patrol.
I'm just gonna sing it through one time, just to remember it.
Alright, let's do it.
Okay, so as you saw me before, I'm gonna be singing Can't Help Falling in Love with You. So just enjoy it, please. Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you, like a river surely to the sea, darling. So it goes. Some things are meant
Love you.
to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too. Oh, for I
There was a special Veterans Day ceremony today in Sutherland Springs, Texas.
You are still watching Good Day Austin, but we've got Dr. Oz here.
Welcome to Texas football, presented by Target.
On November 11th, 2017, I received a phone call from a hospital social worker. She was calling from Austin, Texas, and she was asking me questions about my cousin Scott Latulippe. She's confirming that I know him and that I am the right person to be talking to. She advised me that Scotty was involved in a traffic collision. He was badly injured, and it was very confusing. I recalled a week earlier that my cousin and his family were going to be traveling to Austin, Texas. It started to sink in that this could be real. She advised me that Scotty was badly injured, but Kira was okay in a separate hospital all by herself. This led me to ask the question of where are the other two? Where's Nancy and Jackson? At that moment, I hung up the phone. Oddly enough, my own CHP training kicked in, and I almost started responding to a collision. We got in the car. My wife was arranging plane tickets. There was one last flight to head from San Diego to Austin, and I made it to the airport in time and got on an airplane. I walked into a hospital room with a 10-year-old who I'm pretty sure knew what was happening, but as soon as she saw me, absolutely knew what was happening.
So we were in the car, we were all silent, and we were just driving, and we're going to the airport, obviously, and to go home, and then it happened, and then I look up, and then all I see is, like, it's all slow motion. I see dust and glass flying, and I just remember looking at everyone, and all I was thinking, I was like, I love you, I love you, I love you, because I didn't know what was going to happen next.
Police say the driver who caused Saturday's deadly crash, shutting down US 183 for several hours, was drunk. Police say Guy Brasted was driving north Saturday around 3:30 in the afternoon when his Jeep broke through the cables in the median and crossed into oncoming traffic. He hit a Fiat carrying a family of 4 from California.
I look around and I saw I was the only one up. And the police came, and then the firefighters took me. Then I was on the back of their truck, and they were talking to me, saying everything was gonna be okay. Deep down I knew it wasn't gonna be okay, but
In a moment that will haunt me for the rest of my life, I had to tell her that her mother and brother were dead, and her father was in grave condition. I had no idea how bad he was.
when he told me that my mom and my brother had passed away, it was hard. It was insanely hard. But the only good thing was that they weren't in pain. It was pretty quick.
Once I got a few more family members there with Kira, my other cousin and I were able to go and visit Scott. And walking into a room and seeing his the state that he was in, I instantly knew that suddenly this child was now going to be in my hands.
Scott Latulippe was the front seat passenger when a wrong-way driver hit the family's rental car.
His wife Nancy and son Jackson died at the scene. KXAN's Aaron Cargow now joining us live from the scene of the crash on 183. And Aaron, that means that 10-year-old daughter is is the lone survivor.
That is right. Just to put that in perspective, she lost her entire family in one car crash.
Scotty died in that crash. His body survived. Gave Kira a chance to say goodbye, to say a proper goodbye to him. But he died in that crash with Jackson and Nancy.
Hey guys, let's get rolling.
So, all right, thank you guys for coming. Some of you guys I know aren't in leadership, so thanks for making it. So Molly's gonna pass out all your scripts and stuff to those of you that have speaking roles and stuff in this.
I try to honor my family members by continuing to speak about this, and by standing in front of crowds of people, and whether that day I cry, whether that day I don't cry, I will tell the story. And in the hopes of getting one person in that crowd to not make the same mistake that was made, the same bad choice. Good people make bad choices.
A lot of times we do have other people make an impact statement, kind of similar to what, my family had to do. Maybe the injured party. What's your injuries? Broken leg? Okay. So maybe we bring you in crutches or something like that. And then you get up and say what this has done to you. Okay, my leg is permanently damaged. I can't run track anymore. Some of my dreams were crushed by what happened. So right after the crash, right, having thought about what you're supposed to be doing, right? Are you groaning? Are you saying, oh my God? Are you saying, oh, I'm bleeding, I'm bleeding. I can't move my legs.
I hope that I'm helping. I hope. You can't measure something that doesn't occur. So I don't know if it's working or not. I think it is, but you never know for sure.
Here comes the waterworks.
You're never ready to take over as someone's parent, and that's not what I'm trying to do. She'll have to deal with this at some point in her own manner, and I don't know how that is yet. She has to keep moving. My family needs to keep moving, and we all play a part in that. I have a very, very strong family, and we are resilient, and we won't give up. There is no choice for us but to keep moving.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. It takes me away from real life, and I'm just in my own moment, and everything around me is silent, and all I can hear is my voice, and it makes me really happy and proud, and I forget about everything that's going on in my life. I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. My gift is my song, and this one's for you. Fixes it for just that tiny second, but that tiny second is like a moment, one moment where you don't have to worry. That I put down in words, how wonderful life is. Now you're in the world.
The last couple of years have been so just nonstop that I don't know if you could say we've we've grieved really, because all I've been doing is trying to keep their little girl above water and not fall too far into despair, and try to keep my own family from coming off the hinges as well. DUI, one guy took this all away. Just amazing people that should still be here. I shouldn't even been telling this story. I shouldn't even been talking. I should have just the common DUI speech about .08 and don't do it, and have somebody else be talking. But no, it's me, and it's okay. That's what I'll do, but I shouldn't be doing it.
Jackson and I did something I can never have with someone else, and it kills me to know I will never have that feeling with anyone else anymore.
When a DUI crash occurs, the effect goes far beyond those involved in the crash, those cars that are on the street. I'd like to show you how DUI affected my life.
Yours are the sweetest eyes I've ever seen, and you can tell everybody.
All right, guys, thank you for going with the way we had that set up. I wanted to show that video because it really does a good job summarizing my story, my family story. Some of the things that you don't see in that story is the effect on my two children. You don't see the effect on Kira's grandparents, who had to bury their own children and a grandchild. And these are all things that, like I said in the video, and what Cristi said, that they're preventable. It's 100% preventable. DUI is 100% preventable. I shouldn't even be telling this story. Cristi shouldn't have a story either, but we do. And we hope that by telling that story, someone out there thinks about their next choice when they go out to enjoy themselves, or in whatever way they are. They do it responsibly, and part of my speech also, good people make bad choices. DUI is one that good people make that bad choice, and it's a crime. Suddenly, you're in a spot that you don't want to be in. So, if you're going to go out and drink, and when you're of the age, do it responsibly. Have a plan to get home, because that's what everybody wants. All anybody wants is you to get home safely, and that's what I try to bring to the table in the way of preventing DUI. So thank you for your time. Throw it back that way.
Thank you. So now, we're really going to talk about how do we get here? Who's most likely to drive impaired, right? Most likely, if you are an alcoholic or have alcoholism, are an addict, you're gonna do your daily responsibilities while you're under the influence of alcohol. And you've most likely become an alcoholic because you started drinking at a very early age. So it goes hand in hand. You really wouldn't have so many people dying every year if alcoholism didn't exist, and alcoholism would not be as prevalent if people waited to consume alcohol and then consumed alcohol responsibly. So I think what we want to talk about now is youth alcohol access consumption. What can we do about it? So here is where the gift card is going to come in. I'm going to ask you as a question, and if you comment, We have someone from What Is Sup, Fatima, is taking notice that you guys are commenting, and then she is going to message you after and tell you if you have won a gift card. So you definitely want to comment. Just give me what you've got. The first thing that comes to mind. Okay, so the question is, what do you think is needed to prevent friends and family members from providing alcohol to minors 21 and under? So what is needed to prevent people from providing alcohol to people that are not of age? So what do you think? What do you guys think? Give me the comments. What do you think? We're going to get my opinion, obviously, after this, and we're going to get Mark's opinion because Mark has teenagers, 3 of them, as you guys saw in that video. And social host ordinance, education, that is awesome. So social host ordinance is in most communities, most cities have an ordinance that says you will get fined, you will get a ticket, you could even get jail time if you are caught giving alcohol to minors, if you host it at your house, or even if you go out of town, you go to vacation to Cabo and your kids are in your house drinking your alcohol, or even not drinking your alcohol, but they've brought their own alcohol, you can get in trouble for that. It's really important that if you're going to provide, if you're going to have alcohol in your home, you lock it up appropriately. Okay, so some of these other comments, let's see. I am learning, how do I see them? I need to, oh, there we go. Okay, so, they went away. Social host. Hearing stories like this, teaching people from an early age makes a huge difference. Yes, you're right. Having a serious talk and having teachers talk with their students, definitely. That's going to go just like Danny Brooks said with education, just educating the public, awareness, positive peer pressure. I love this one. So make it seem super uncool to do that and build collective will. That is awesome. And when I talk to youth all the time, I say, it's not just negative peer pressure. It's not just, saying you should drink because we're all doing it. But if you are a youth, if you are a teenager, you go to a party and you decline alcohol, someone from across the room might see you and say, hey, they didn't drink, so I guess I could not drink. And you can create positive peer pressure and influence other kids, other teenagers to make the same choices. So they need to be educated to the effects and the damages, yes. Hearing stories like this, consequences, educational webinars, these are some phenomenal comments. So I'm going to add to that, access is huge. So even if our kids are curious, if we do not make it accessible to them, and we, just like you guys say, educate ourselves or are open to that education, that's going to prevent a lot of things. I think that this comment that was just said was that people are afraid to confront it. Yes, it can be an uncomfortable conversation to have with your teen, but it's one that needs to be had, and it's one that doesn't just stop after one conversation. It needs to continue. It needs to happen frequently. So talk early with your kids and talk often. What do you think, Mark? What do you think you have done with your kids that they've made the right choice not to drink?
Well, I hope that my example, for one thing,
yes,
being responsible, and also laying down my wife's expectations. We've parented that way the whole time. I want them to know the expectations of what I expect, and that there are ramifications if this happens. Not only as a police officer, right? You get a DUI or you get stopped by a police officer before or while you're under 21. You're kind of in the grinder there. You're gonna get called your parents, and if it's bad enough, that's the good one. If you go out and kill someone, like what we've seen 2 stories already, you're still going to go to jail, even if you're under 21. So knowing I think knowledge is the biggest thing. And knowing the ramifications and the expectations of your parents or guardians or whatever that might be is very, very important.
And also, I think a big alcohol use by underage youth is done a lot because some cultures it's celebrated, and maybe some parts of your family, they believe that it's okay for kids to drink. And you need to make a choice as a family that if there's a function where you know there's gonna be people are partaking in underage drinking, you as an adult, or maybe you even as a teen, need to take this stand and say, hey, I'm not gonna support that function. I don't need to go to that party, because just putting up that boundary and staying away from it is one of the greatest things that you really can do. Then you're not open to the peer pressure. Then you're not open to be part of some social host situation that may happen during that time. You just don't want to put yourself in situations where you have to make a decision. Okay, well, I think that you guys had some great ideas. We had some great comments. And then, yes, so Stevie, don't be afraid to speak up. If one of your friends says like, hey, I'm gonna have the kids over and everyone's giving me their keys, so it's okay, for them to drink in my home. It's not okay, because only 32% of underage drinking related deaths are related to driving. That means 68% of deaths that have to do with youth consuming alcohol are murders, suicides, alcohol poisonings, drownings, fires, falls. There's so many things that can happen when you are underage and consuming alcohol. It's all about that brain development. And it's not worth the risk, right? Taking away the keys doesn't take away the risk. So you will be direct messaged if you are a winner. And then I guess that we're gonna have a little Q&A. If you guys have any questions to ask Officer Latulippe or myself, you can ask those now. I know you will all have so many questions. So, thanks, Stevie. So Stevie, that is wonderful parenting. She's having her teen son watch this with her. So education, there is another great one.
If you guys go on to, actually to see the video not projected through a phone, it is on the CHP www.chp/social, and there's a link to the video. It's called Falling, and it is on YouTube as well to access. So definitely, if you guys want to spread that out, that's great. I would love that to get more and more hits. So
definitely share that with people you love and care about. Let people know that you would never drive impaired under the influence of anything. Because the more common we make it, the less people will start doing it. And if your friends believe that you don't do it, then just like that positive peer pressure again, they're not going to do it. They're more likely not to do it because of your influence. So if there are any questions, you guys make sure to ask. We're waiting. I know we covered everything really well. We're trying to it's been really fun doing this live. I'm really glad that we were able to do it. We are going to share it. How do you recommend addressing someone who you think might have a drinking problem? That's a great question. So, growing up, it was really hard because it was something that we never really talked to my dad about. We knew he was an alcoholic, but it was one of those things that we didn't really confront. And I'm only 32, so I don't have a ton of experience, and I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask about this, but I do a lot of therapy. And the biggest thing for you is to put up boundaries with that person and let them know, don't enable them, let them know that you're there if they want to confront that problem. I am here for you and I will help you when you are ready to get help. I think that's one of the biggest things, because When people are addicted, we cannot allow them to bring us down with them, because addiction, you know, it's a disease. It is tough. And once you're in it, it is super hard to get out. So let that person know, I love you and I want to help you, and I am here when you want to get help. I think that that's one of the biggest things.
I would think that, yeah, communication, making sure you communicate with that person. If it comes down to a safety issue, then you may have to cross that line and go a little bit more blunt with it, but with your conversation, and let them know that you love them and that you're worried about them. I think that would be my tactic.
And if that person is driving under the influence, you can call the police on them. If you know that every day they go to work impaired, when they leave the house, you call 911 and report them, because you could potentially be saving a life. Are there any other questions? If you had a teen who had a drinking problem too, I would just go to the internet and look for resources. There are so many prevention coalitions, like North Coast Prevention Coalition, who is part of the Vista Community Clinic that put this on. They have so many resources. They work with so many organizations that are ready and willing to help youth. Do you find most teens drinking and driving with friends and groups? If so, how do you ensure that they all face consequences? Okay, so I think, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? We talked about peer pressure a little bit earlier. Peer pressure is huge. There are actually laws in place that are supposed to keep at least that first year of driving by yourself. So they'd be violating that. But if they're drinking and driving, they're probably not worried about that. So, you know, if I make that stop and I encounter something like that, I'm going to call every one of those parents, and they're all going to come and get them. Now, are they breaking the law that I can take them into custody? Only the driver, really. The others are going to get in trouble. You know, that's going to be dependent on their home life. So I don't have a whole lot of teeth on them, besides letting them know their parents, that their parents know that they were doing something wrong that night. It shouldn't be tolerated. That's, you know, that I've only encountered that a couple times, luckily, but it's one of those things. You know, peer pressure is huge. So that's also a choice, right? It's all a choice on what we do, and that is definitely one of the choices that a lot of teens can make a little better by knowing themselves and not putting themselves in that situation. So, what else we got on there?
That is the most recent question. So it's important too to have that conversation. Give your kids an out, because if they do make that wrong choice and choose to drink, at least you want to be there. I've had kids in the past, if they want to get out of a situation, they have like a code word with their parent and they text them that code word. I think one of the code words was cat. And that mom knew if she got cat texted to her, that she would immediately call her daughter and say, you need to come home right now, and, you know, kind of like pretend like she was in trouble to get her out of that uncomfortable situation that she was in. So it gave her an out. She didn't have to look uncool, but it gave her an opportunity to leave that uncomfortable situation safely. And if they have chosen to drink and they're still coming to you, it's best to get them, make sure that they are safe, pick them up, and then you can address it in the morning, let them go to sleep, kind of sleep it off, and then address it, talk about consequences, but don't turn them off completely where they don't feel like they could come to you. You always want them to feel like they can come to you.
I can add on to that a little bit. So how about this on the teen angle? If you are stuck in a car that you don't want to be in, say you got into the situation, now I'm changing my mind, and I don't want to be in this car anymore. What's the sure way to make a driver stop? What do you think, Cristi? If I told you I was going to throw up in your car?
Oh, that's a good one.
Right? So if you're driving along and you're realizing you shouldn't be in this car anymore, this person's drunk, Even a drunk person will say, no, I don't want you puke in my car.
Yep.
So you start, if you have to, do some dry heaves and fake like you're going to throw up. That car will stop, jump out, make that phone call to that parent. I can guarantee that any parent would prefer a phone call over a knock on the door from someone like me. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
How do you deal with prevalent advertising that shows all of these cool people drinking?
You limiting access to those, putting on parental controls on your phone. If that's a parent that's asking, I'm assuming. That's something that we are living with more and more every day, and things are slipping through with the vast amount of information that's coming to us. So that all goes also back down to your choices. And let's face it, we know what the right choice is. 99% of the time we know the right choice, and we don't always do it. So
we realize that a lot of this alcohol is like the cans are just created for youth, right? They're colorful, they're bright, they're fun. I saw an ad, we just got Hulu, and I saw an ad on Hulu, and it was like a skeleton drinking. I don't know who it was for, but they were drinking like that seltzer. It was a new seltzer or something. And I kept thinking, like, this ad is not geared toward an adult. This is not. So to be aware of that and then limit it or have those conversations, like, that it looks cool to drink. I think if they knew the flip side of it, and we saw that social media, and advertising, it's not real, right? Reality TV, it's not real. Let them know the truth. Show them the reality. Show them the things that actually do happen. I think that is, like these stories right here, that, makes a difference. Hey, that might be what alcohol companies want you to believe is happening when you consume their alcohol. But here's what really happens. Because if you search the internet, you will find thousands and thousands of stories that prove those advertisements just completely wrong. Or social media, completely wrong. People are only posting what they want you to see. The truth is that it's a whole different story. It's a highlight reel, you're right. The companies are trying to sell something, right? And I always tell kids, like, hey, when you're 21, you have so much less of your childhood than you do your adulthood. I'm quickly learning that at 32, right? So wait until you're 21. You have the rest of your life to be cool if you so want. But wouldn't it be so much cooler to live that life with a fully developed brain, with all of those skills that you really need to be successful? I think that's what we should really drive home with our kids. Okay, unless there's any other questions, I think you guys should follow CHP Oceanside.
Yes.
Mark
absolutely.
is in charge of that account.
Yes, it's good stuff.
Yeah, he posts lots of great stuff on there.
Monday morning jokes.
That's awesome. Yeah. So unless there's any other questions, we'll wait just a couple seconds more, and then we're going to sign off. We really appreciate you guys all being here. We really appreciate the back and forth in the comments. That always makes these so much better. So we appreciate you. Be safe out there. Any police sign off that you want to give them?
Don't drink and drive, buckle up.
Don't text and drive.
Don't text and drive. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful Wednesday.